My name is Downtown Josh Brown. I'm here with Michael Batnick. We are live from the compound with our friend Andrew Chanin. Andrew, say hello.
Hello.
All right. For those who are not familiar, Andrew is the founder and CEO of Procure ETFs. He's been involved in some of the biggest smash hits in thematic ETF history. And Andrew's got a new product he wants to tell us about. Stick around. Let's see what's going on. All right. So first of all, I love that you brought a prop. Tell us about the new ETF that you launched. And by the way, before you say a word, let me indemnify all of us. Nothing we say is advice. We're not marketing funds. I'm not telling people to buy anything or sell anything. The fund may or may not be right for you. Please look at the prospectus online. Please consult with your financial advisor and or plastic surgeon. With that being said, tell us about the new fund now that we're all covered.
You covered it all.
Yeah.
UFO, the first pure play global space ETF.
Okay.
Listed this fund
Space,
on
like I
Thursday.
want to invest in companies that are doing things in space.
Satellite companies, manufacturers, launch companies, ground equipment companies, companies that are doing things in outer space, deriving their revenues from outer
Lightsabers.
space. Not yet, I believe.
All right. Now, how can you make the claim the first ever pure play on investing in space when I am aware of at least one other fund that also invests in companies that are doing things in space? Like, what's the distinguish? How do you distinguish that yours is a pure play and theirs
All
really
right, so
isn't?
Tesla is not a fund.
Right. Besides Tesla.
So with this index that our fund tracks, it is the S Network Space Index, and 80% of the companies derive over 50% of their revenues from space-related activities, space-based systems, or are ground equipment companies reliant upon these space systems.
So you're weighting the index by how much the company is deriving business from space.
Right. It's a modified market cap.
Okay.
So based on revenues derived from space.
So would you say that this is like a space beta portfolio?
That's what he's aiming for. Like, seriously.
This is a portfolio with 30 different companies, predominantly of these pure play varieties, and there's also a tranche to aerospace and defense, but these are more the diversified companies in that tranche. So I wouldn't be shocked if there was some correlation to aerospace and defense, but really you're looking at broadband, so kind of a play on 5G a little bit as well. Companies that are relying upon satellites, but telecommunications.
What's like the top 10 names?
Inmarsat, Viasat, Intelsat,
So a lot of satellite.
Iridium Communications. Then
Okay.
you even have Garmin, Dish Network, Sirius.
Okay.
So
What are so I'm not familiar with like any of these names besides for Garmin. Are these Russell 2000 companies? Like where are these companies in terms of market cap?
these companies many of them are in the billions.
Okay.
But a lot of these companies are multi-billion-dollar market cap companies.
You have like AT&T in there. You have
Yep.
like I saw a few names that like are mega caps, and then some of these satellite companies are a couple of billion, but they're fully focused on space.
Exactly.
So you're trying to so when you say pure play, you're like really giving people space exposure.
Exactly. And I think someone that wants to invest in a space-related product, they're investing in it because they want that exposure. If they want, aerospace and defense, fine. There's an ETF for that. You can get
so
that.
we're gonna link to your site with like the prospectus and all the disclosures, so people can see things like average market cap, et cetera.
So where do you think this fits in a portfolio, or do you think this goes in people's sort of, and not at all to be disrespectful, but like sort of their play money?
I think it can go in several spaces for people's portfolios. I think some people will look at it as, hey, I want to invest in space, and now there's a vehicle for me to do it, because I think we're seeing massive trend changes right now that are allowing for new opportunities, and they want that exposure. Some people might say, I'm in aerospace and defense, but I'm too focused in there. I want kind of the satellite exposure, no pun intended, to space, and that's how they'll play it.
Yeah, because if they own like Raytheon and Boeing, like they have. That's the defense spending, like that budget. That's what they're exposed to. And you were telling me that space is more and more spending on space is coming from the commercial side than from government. So it's a very different business than defense.
Absolutely.
Like in traditional aerospace.
So how correlated is this basket of stocks to say industrials? Or like what sector does it fall into?
They are industrials. I would
So
say.
these are like digital
Well,
industrials?
some of them are communications too.
Exactly. Industrials, telecom, and then there is some consumer goods exposure as well.
So like XM Sirius is in there.
Exactly.
It's an entertainment company. It's a media business, but it's being beamed down via satellite. And ostensibly, there could be other businesses that they get involved with that are satellite related. Like,
Right.
That's the idea.
Right.
Okay. Why are you so bullish on space in general? You feel like it's like going to be a big theme for investors as it becomes more commercial? I guess what Bezos is doing, what Elon is doing, like that's what makes people excited about it.
First off, this is the 50th anniversary year of the initial lunar landing. If
Which
you
was
can't
fake.
get
I'm going to let you finish, but come on. Go on.
it. So, if you can't get excited about space on a year like this, you're never going to get excited
All right,
about
but
space.
next year will be the 51st year. So, like,
Sure.
what's going to maintain?
There are three
investor excitement?
major trends that are happening right now that I think people should be focused on space for these reasons. One, governments are now setting policy so that companies actually can understand what they can and can't do in space. And without that kind of groundwork in place, what company is actually going to invest or R&D into areas of space technology, whatnot, if you have no idea if you'll actually be able to send it
Okay,
into
so
space?
regulatory acceptance of commercial space stuff.
Absolutely.
Good. What else?
The lowering of the cost of actually launching items into space. So, years ago, you're looking at, hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars per pound to send an item into orbit.
Okay.
And now you're looking under $10,000 per pound. And so
How is that
technology,
possible? Because the rocket doesn't explode anymore. They land it.
well, there's more competition.
Okay.
So you have more companies coming into this space. So as opposed to having to rely on a launch site in Russia to launch your satellite into space, there's many more players coming in. So that's driving down costs.
Okay.
Also,
Number
just
three.
but like you said, reusable rockets. Imagine flying from New York to Beijing and then destroying the plane.
And the plane burns up in the atmosphere. Right. I got it.
Well,
Okay. Okay.
So there's that. And then lastly, technology from satellites. Satellites can be smaller. We're talking about low Earth orbit as being this environment that companies are going to launch significant amounts of satellites. So like Amazon is talking about launching as many satellites.
Broadband providing satellites.
Absolutely. That's one
So
of the main-
satellites don't look like Dr. Evil launching something in Austin Powers anymore, like a big gray thing. Like satellites look very different than I think what most people imagine.
They do, and they come in all shapes and sizes. And some of these newer ones are so small; they smaller than this helmet.
Now, there's scarcity too, though. Like if you're able to launch something into orbit to have it be used for a corporate customer, it's not like there's 50 other people that can do that. So you have pricing power if you're one of these businesses. Or
At the moment,
theoretically.
yes. At the
Okay.
moment, yes. I don't know how long a first mover advantage will necessarily work, but to the extent that new companies come out with new technologies, that's exactly what governments are encouraging. So whether it's funding from governments because the Space Force, and that's going to be a driver for the defense and militarization of space. Which,
Come on.
you
Bullish on Space Force?
do I think it could drive revenues into spending
Oh,
on
if
space?
they really do it? Yeah.
Yeah, but
How do you think these companies perform in the next downturn, assuming there ever is one?
it's tough to say. From the satellite side, a lot of it is consumer driven spending. So, will they stop spending on things like Sirius or other consumer goods? Tough to say. Are governments going to slow down on spending for their military and communication
I
satellites?
guess it also
Probably
depends
not.
how bad it gets. How bad
China,
it gets.
China won't.
Right.
China's like doing crazy stuff in space every day, it seems like. And
Yep.
sometimes the headlines get noticed here and sometimes they don't.
Yeah,
But
and just last week, Israel, although it was unsuccessful, there was a private company that launched into space an item to land on the moon, and it was actually made it the fourth country to actually land something on the moon.
So
where do they land on the moon?
It was an unmanned probe.
Okay.
What percentage of the market capitalization of these companies or revenues or whatever is in the United States?
So
Like government spending, you mean?
No.
Like
Of
NASA?
the companies in the portfolio.
in the portfolio, roughly 70% of the weight is U.S.
Okay.
Listed companies, and the rest being abroad. So you have some exposure to the U.K., to Italy, Australia,
And is this reconstituted annually?
quarterly.
Quarterly. Okay.
Yeah, before we wrap up, like how did the index get created? So you have a partner that was involved in the space program officially, and this is kind of like an index that's extremely legit because it wasn't created originally just to be an ETF.
No, this wasn't just me saying, hey, I think people want to invest in space. Let's spit out what some space companies are. This was an index that was actually under construction well before I came along into the picture, telling this group that I wanted this product. An individual that used to work at the Space Foundation with a background in space policy, really understands the actual space economy and the companies involved, those technologies. He was originally building this for the Space Foundation, this index, and eventually they said, you know what, you should actually probably take this. We want to be independent in the space. And he ended up partnering with S Networks, who brought this index to us. So there's an individual that is very passionate about space with a great understanding that compiled this.
Well, listen, it's very cool. I like that you're the first pure play.
Very legal.
Very legal. Very cool. Bullish on Space Force. You heard it here first. It's going to happen, folks. Will you join the Space Force?
I don't know if there's a place for me there.
I mean, you have the uniform already.
I'm like halfway there.
I'm not going to ask you to put that on. All right, listen. Andrew is a good dude. He believes when he launched the product, he believes in the concept. You own it yourself, I assume. You have a little bit.
I'm not allowed to.
You're not allowed to, but the company is like betting on it, so it's got to work, right?
Exactly.
So you have skin in the game.
That's for sure.
All right, wish you luck. Make sure you read the prospectus and do your due diligence. Consult with an advisor before buying or selling any fund. Do not consult with a YouTube video. We will put some links to all that stuff. Let us know what you think. Is space a viable place to invest? And is an ETF a better approach than trying to pick individual rocket companies, satellite companies?
Exactly.
All right, we'll find out. Let us know what you think. Thanks a lot.